2 years ago, my guest made the most accurate forecast for how Bitcoin would close off 2020 amongst all the popular Bitcoin pundits and advocates in the world. Max Keiser had forecasted $20,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2020. So how is he expecting Bitcoin to close off in 2021?
The corrections in Bitcoin have been successfully getting less and less and less. I mean, I've went through 80 to 90% corrections, in Bitcoin since 2011. So, but since then we've had less and less and less. So we just experienced a 20% correction. And so now that correction's over and now we start going higher. And so it'll start to behave more like an asset class where you might see 10 to 20% corrections. The 30, 40, 50% corrections, I think we're past that because the size of the market's gotten to be a lot bigger and the amount of money on the sidelines waiting to get in is enormous. The biggest money funds in the world, BlackRock, Stan Druckenmiller, Paul Tudor Jones, Mass Mutual Insurance Company, they're all sitting on the bid, hoping to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And that's only going to get bigger and bigger. Sovereign wealth funds are going to get into this, et cetera. So the corrections will be less and less and less. I'm going with $220,000 per Bitcoin as a 2021 target, and that would bring us up to over $4 trillion market valuation, which I think is a good 2021 objective. We were going to catch up to gold. That would bring us up to not quite half gold's valuation, but getting close to gold's valuation. I think the catalyst is going to be, as I said, a major central bank failing, plus the money printing is going to go absolutely Weimar Republic. So we're going to see that, depending on how you calculate this, the 10 to 15 trillion that was printed in the last.
So 220,000 per Bitcoin. When you come up with these forecasts, like I said, 2 years ago, you accurately predicted the 2020 forecast. How do you come up with these numbers? Are you sitting at the table with a calculator? Are you, baking your cheesecake and it comes to you? Like, how do you get to that number?
Yeah, I like the image of me baking a keto cheesecake and thinking about all these things. Well, first of all, some of it's proprietary. I can't go into the minutia because, this is the secret sauce of my whole enterprise. I don't want to get too specific. But having said that, there's certain trends that you can put into your calculation. So we just had a halving, right? We had the third halving in Bitcoin. There's three things in Bitcoin that people like Nouriel Roubini never mentioned: the halvings, the difficulty adjustment, and the hash rate. Now, that would be like me being a real estate broker and trying to sell real estate and telling people that I don't know where the house is, I don't know how big the house is, and I don't know who owns the house. Would you be a successful real estate broker? No.
Okay, so Roubini is your target today. We get it. But that.
Okay, let me get back to the question. So the halving happens every 4 years. So the supply gets cut in half. So that then you input that into the demand. So the demand is going, the demand's going higher, right? All these huge money folks are coming in to Bitcoin. Then the supply is shrinking. For example, there's 900 Bitcoin a day that are created, and the demand is over 4,000 a day. So that should tell you something right there. If you look at the exchanges, there's Bitcoin, kind of a snapshot of how many Bitcoin are circulating or in existence being moved around. That is shrinking rapidly because institutions are taking Bitcoin. They're gobbling up that Bitcoin. We're going to enter a Bitcoin shortage. So a couple of things we haven't seen, we're going to see in 2021. We're going to see gap pricing in terms of price discovery. So, okay, it's 37,000. Once you get up above 40,000, that panic buying from institutions comes in. You could see 42,000, and then the next print be 44,000. Right? You're going to see.
Is it a straight up road to 220,000, or is there going to be major corrections along the way?
Well, like we just saw a 20% correction. I think we're going to see 10, 20% corrections all the time. And I don't know, I wouldn't say that this is where we end the year either. Probably this 220,000 number, probably you're going to see that in October, November. This will be the high of the year. If you look historically to how the Bitcoin's traded versus the halvings and the demand and the difficulty adjustment and the mining industry and the acceleration of the technology in the mining industry and how efficient miners are, the cost of electricity, right? That's also a factor in this calculation.
The central bank that's going to close, shut down, blow up.
Right. So let's see. The candidates are Bank of Japan, Bank of England, Federal Reserve Bank, European Central Bank. Probably the bank that is in the deepest quagmire of problems would be the ECB. I think the ECB will be dissolved and something will take its place. And they won't call it a crash necessarily. I think the ECB bank is going to be probably, let's call it they're going to get dissolved in 2021. And it's going to be replaced with some other facility. Like they could say, oh, we're going to do $1 trillion. We're going to do 100 trillion credit facility with special drawing rights from the IMF. Our friend Christine Lagarde and the ECB are going to get back together again, get the band back together again. And they're going to try to bail out the Eurozone, but they're going to have to dissolve the ECB first.
So they're going to market it like a rebrand?
Yeah. They're going to market it as a rebrand, a restart, a reset. They're going to call it a reset or a new Bretton Woods. Okay, so we've heard those terms already, right? A new Bretton Woods and a reset. So as part of that Bretton Woods / reset, they're going to come out of that meeting and say, here it is. And by the way, one of these banks, these central banks, had to be dissolved. Exactly like in 2008 when Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns had to be sacrificed. They got into a room and Dick Fuld over there at Lehman Brothers was taken out back and shot in the head, right? And said, you've got to sacrifice. You've got to give all your assets to Jamie Dimon today or the country goes into receivership, Dick Fuld. Take one for the team, buddy.
If Bitcoin is at 220,000 in 2021, gold goes to?
Let's say gold gets in above 3,000. Hello?
Yeah, that's a very bullish call for gold.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, gold is not going to go away.
Yeah.
I mean, gold is not, I'm not in the camp that says Bitcoin is going to demonetize gold.
Okay.
I'm not in that camp. There is a group that says this. But, gold is still the primary asset for all central banks.
Let's take it.
It's still the base layer money that runs the global economy, has done for 100, 300, 200 years, whatever.
Now that I'm on this path, I have to take it one step further or I'm going to get all these emails. Why didn't you ask them about silver then? Okay. Gold goes to 3,000. Where does silver go? Let's end it there.
Well, silver, when we did Crash JP Morgan buy silver back in 2011, it was at 15. We drove it to $50. And then that was the old high end of the Hunt brothers. Then, of course, it dropped back down to the $11, $12, $13 range. Now it's trading higher. It's pushing high 20s, pushing 30. So I say that, yeah, it's